I'm Kelsey Litchfield, and this is the Field Advisor Podcast, where I talk with local experts to unpack the latest agronomy information and research, giving you the knowledge to make informed decisions out in the field. Welcome back to the Field Advisor Podcast here at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. I'm Kelsey Litchfield, surrounded by plant pathologists. I feel like disease is what we're going to talk about today, but should I be scared sitting next to a lot of plant pathologists? I don't know.
We're not contagious yet.
Okay.
We're completely normal, Kelsey.
It's fun talking to plant pathologists. There's always something to talk about. So first I'll have you introduce each of yourselves. I'm also joined by Stephanie Porter, Illinois Soybean Association. But let's start here with the Ohio State University.
That's right. Thank you very much for having us today. My name is Horacio Lopez-Nicora, soybean pathologist and nematologist at the Ohio State University.
I'm Dylan Mangel, soybean pathologist at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln.
And we're here to talk about Soybean Cyst Nematode, SCN. You're a part of the SCN Coalition. So real quick, just give us, what is the SCN Coalition?
The SCN Coalition is a public-private partnership that aims to communicate and provide resources for better understanding biology and the damage that this pathogen caused to soybean. It's absolutely the number one and most economically damaging pathogen of soybean in North America. And like I mentioned, this coalition hopes to provide information both to understand the pathogen but also management. And we really aim to provide this information with one voice. And that is the strength of the SCN Coalition. Our private partners, private consultants, industry partners, our public partners, extension pathologists across the U.S. are communicating the same message to the growers. We don't want to overwhelm the growers that have already so many things to think about during the season, but we do want to definitely help manage this issue.
And the great thing about this problem is there's not a lot of disagreement on how to manage it. If you've got one nematode, you need to think about managing it in your field. And at this point, we're still limiting tools. We're getting new tools, but I think everyone agrees we want to make sure awareness is the big idea right now. And thanks to our checkoff partners as well, we've created a really good team that's just focused on getting this message out there.
So the Illinois Soybean Association offers free SCN testing, and we're still doing this. We're doing it for the following year, too. So we've had a lot of people participate in that program in the last year, actually, more than we thought we would. And I think the next number one question that comes up after they get tested is what they're supposed to do management-wise. So I don't know if you want to dive into that, but the number, I would say I just got this question, should I be using Peking? That's the big popular one lately here in Illinois.
Yeah, no, you hit on so many things right there. So the first one I think we should follow up with is just, what do you do when you get that test result back? We've got free testing as well. Ohio has testing available for free as well, so a lot of the Midwest does that. But you get a complicated sheet back and it says you have 4,000 eggs per 100 CCF. So what does that mean? And the answer is it means something different depending on your fields. If you've got a high sand field, if you got a high pH field, or vice versa, all of those play into what sort of yield loss you'll have. And that's something that the SCN did recently is we built a tool called the SCN Profit Checker, where a grower can get that test result back, put that number in there of eggs, and then put in just some characteristics about their field, and it's going to tell them what sort of yield loss they're likely expecting. And all the growers I've stood in the field next to and done this, they get, a 12% yield loss back, for example, and they're surprised. I think all of them thought, I've got this, but I'm not really seeing a huge hit. And the truth is, it can look really good, and with you can.
So is it just the basic SCN test, or do you have to have HG? I think that's my biggest question to do the profit checker.
The HG can improve it, but we've taken our state averages and we've auto-populated that, so they can modify that if they do have the next level.
Okay, because not everybody gets the HG.
That
I know
is
you know.
correct.
Okay.
So if the grower, so there's 4 inputs in this calculator, and by the way, it's built. An algorithm is running behind it, right? So we have statistics running behind it, and more than 25,000 research plot of data that is communicating the relationship of these edaphic factors, levels of soybean cyst nematode, and yield reduction. So really, it takes 4 inputs from the growers: the numbers of soybean cyst nematode from their test results, the pH from that soil, the percentage of sun, so you need a texture analysis. Most of the growers will have that, and the female index on 88,788, which in many cases a grower will not have. A grower can ask in their plant clinic or in their university nematology lab. It's a lengthy process, as you know, right? This may require several months to get that AG type and female index on the different sources of resistance. But like Dylan mentioned, if that growers just select their state, let's say Illinois, then the nematologist and the plant clinic from University of Illinois would have provided that average female index for the state, and that will auto-populate automatically.
Okay.
And that's available on the website, you said? Like, how do they access this?
That's correct. So the SCN Coalition.com, several resources about soybean cyst nematode. There's a tab that says the SCN Profit Checker. Otherwise, the SCNProfitChecker.com will take you to that calculator.
Okay. Okay.
I
was going to say, if you have more questions or we want to talk more management.
Well, Steph mentioned, what do I do now? Should I plant picking, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we do have now access to great cultivars with picking source of resistance. As we all know, unfortunately, we overused the most common source of resistance to SCN, which is PI 88788. So more than 90% of our commercially available soybean that says resistant to soybean cyst nematode have this particular source of resistance, PI 88788. We overuse it for the past 30 years, which created a selection pressure that shift the virulence of our nematode population to one that now adapted and reproduced on PI 88788. What does that mean? I work with growers in Ohio, for example, that their population can reproduce on PI 88788 90% compared to a susceptible. That's not resistant anymore. Or, if we want to be very precise, it's 10% resistant compared to a susceptible. It's not doing anything anymore. So that population really will continue reproducing and causing yield reduction to my soybean that has in the label resistant to soybean cyst nematode PI 88788. A different source of resistance may be effective for that particular population. For example, Peking. So now there are good cultivars out there commercially available with Peking source of resistance that if I know that my population have overcome and reproduced on PI 88788, this could be a great tool.
I think we've always struggled because the Peking was usually offered in an earlier maturity. And so those in Southern Illinois, for example, that needed a fuller maturity with Peking couldn't quite get that. So we're not quite there in the southern part, but maybe the central part are now getting some access to mid threes. And so that's a new opportunity, and that's why we're getting a lot of questions.
That has been a big struggle for sure. And in the case where you can't get peaking, but you want to do something different, 88788 still has efficacy in a lot of areas, in a lot of populations. It's still a tool that we want to continue to use. But in the case where you can't rotate away from it, what we really want to recommend is that growers rotate between varieties. There's subtle differences in the PI 88788s that are out there. But if you keep, I see it all the time. A grower finds a variety they have a good experience with and they want to stick with it. You're just giving the nematode a foothold in overcoming that. So rotate varieties, switch it up still.
That's good advice because, we've had a number that we really like and we've stuck with it. And I know exactly where you're coming from. So that's a good bit of advice.
Yeah. And another one, which is a little bit more concerning for us, is that the way that these sources of resistance work are very differently. PI 88788 works very differently than how picking works. And the picking source of resistance is extremely good, which means that by being so good and not allowing a part of the population to reproduce, once we have a few of them adapting and reproducing, we're going to break that extremely fast, more so than what it took us to lose the efficacy of PI 88788. What do I mean by that? We have some evidence that if we plant Peking consecutively for more than 2-3 years.
But that's like so we're rotating.
So we're including corn into the picture here, right? So the first rotation that we recommend growers is to go to a non-host. Corn is the one that we're used to and is the best, right? Corn will actually reduce the population of the nematode if we follow soybean. But if we did plant picking and we saw reduction in that population and actually better yield, we're going to fall in love with that. We're going to go to corn.
And that's happening. That is happening.
No, I'm telling you, we're going to go to corn. We're going to further reduce the population of the nematode, and then we are going to want to plant Peking again.
And then what's your advice to that?
We are... Dylan, come on.
Don't do it.
But that is a message I'm trying to get across. But yeah, that's hard, right? I mean,
it is hard, and it has to be a message that we all work together to communicate, right? It has to be a message with the grower, and I'm interacting a lot with growers, and I understand that some of these decisions are made as a team, right? You have the seed dealer, right? That person has been taking care of that grower.
But there's a lot of other traits to look for in a soybean variety. It's
in
not
addition
just
to
all
that,
about SCN, guys.
That's 100% true there, 100%, yeah. Yeah, but the whole community has to be, on the same page, yeah. So I just want to say that, yes, it's all about SCN, really. I mean, come on, Steph. If, we have this invisible pest that is, robbing so much yield, even if the soybeans look beautiful. I mean, this organism can infect plant, and it really modifies the root system. I mean, it changes the cell anatomy and physiology. It makes the plant believe that in the root system, the plant is burying their progeny. The cells that these nematodes modify, these feeding sites now, they have structures, anatomical structures that resemble transfer cells. I mean, you find transfer cell in embryo. I mean, the plant is thinking I have to take care of my kids. I'm gonna feed them, and you just lose so much yield with healthy-looking soybean.
Do you think that's why they're not taking it maybe as seriously, farmers?
I do think they're taking it seriously. I just think that sometimes when you don't see a problem, it's really hard to try and go and find one. And no one does that, right? I feel healthy. Why do I need to go to the doctor?
Right,
I feel
that's
healthy.
true.
Yep.
Yeah. And I hear a lot, you won't see it above ground, correct? It's underground. So, to your point, it looks like a healthy field of soybeans. Nothing's wrong here.
And it does, and it makes sense because these pathogens have adapted with the host. So soybeans is nematode, and soybean has been together for the moment that we have been growing soybean in this country, right? So,
I don't think any grower is surprised out there that soybeans can be inconsistent. I mean, you think you have good-looking beans out there, and then you get surprised by that yield. So I think growers know they're missing yield at times. Growers know that from one year to the next there's changes. I think the fact that you can't see the nematode really leads to a lot of people not making the connection that the nematode is playing a major role in this. Weather's going to impact how big of that hit you're experiencing every year too. So it's not always going to be consistent. So it's not an equal slice across the top. We're just not making that connection, which is really easy to make with white mold. You can see white mold, and you know you have white mold, and that's the cause.
Yeah, just wait till you get red crown out.
Yeah, you can see sudden death syndrome, and that's.
I hope you don't.
Right? Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. And, it makes me think about all the misconceptions, right? So one is, working with very, very successful growers, I'm growing 80 bushel an acre beans. I don't have a problem. Well, add 30% to that, and you will have extra income to your operation, right? So not because you are producing above the average doesn't mean that you are not losing due to soybean cyst nematode, and that you can actually, compensate for that by an integrated management approach. The other misconception is I plant and I farm in heavy soil, so I don't have problem with nematode. Only sandy soil have issues with soybean cyst nematode. That's completely incorrect too, right? So the nematode, if present in heavy soils and reaching the root system, will reproduce, and by reproducing, will cause yield reduction. The third one is, well, I have soybean cyst nematode, and corn is not a host. I'll just plant continuous corn and get rid of it.
I kind of sometimes I think in his state that happens. We don't like to talk about that. That pains us here at the Soybean Association. Yeah, we don't like. I was going to mention that you have a lot of corn grown in your corn on corn.
We do. Yeah, we do. It happens. I think that could be changing. I think we're shifting, but it helps with the nematode problem. It causes corn problems instead, though.
Yeah. But the misconception is that you're not going to get rid of the nematode.
No.
Right.
It's the first year after soybean, you will experience a very significant yield reduction, but then that will taper off later. The nematode, unfortunately, has been equipped with amazing survival strategies. They will hatch sometimes with the presence of the host exudate. Yep. So you need to put soybean out there so those eggs can hatch, penetrate the roots of these soybeans that hopefully have the resistance for that population, and then ultimately you reduce levels of the nematode.
So ISA funded some research a couple years back, and it was with Dr. Bond at SIU. And you can correct me, but it was basically telling us that we can have some suppression of SCN. And so we're currently also funding some work with Dr. Bond looking at maybe other cover crops as well.
Okay.
I don't know, do you want to fill us in on any kind of research that you know of or any kind of work that's been done?
Yeah, that's a great comment. And if it's the same research that came out recently in several publications by that really good team. I mean, Dr. Bond is a great nematologist and soybean researcher. They were looking at double crops with wheat as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
double crop. Yes.
Exactly. And that's something that in Ohio we also do a lot, and it is a non-host. So it's a perfect way of getting some income into your farm operation while at the same time reducing and continue to reduce the population. Same thing with cover crops. We're looking into different cover crops that can serve as a non-host, which is a no-brainer. But what about if we can discover maybe among these different cover crops some additional effect, some type of allelopathic effect, or deleterious effect for the nematode, or maybe serve as a trap. The nematode will go inside and will not reproduce in a higher rate than commonly, right? Those are the things that are very valuable once we start looking in the greenhouse and then deploying to our farms.
Yeah, Stephanie, you had read my mind, honestly, when I was thinking about
it gets
SCN and cover
scary.
crops.
Kelsey
yeah.
and I have worked way too long together, and we just say the same thing all the time, and it's getting a little
I
strange.
was like, darn it, she took my question.
You took mine during the last podcast.
So continue talking about management. What other management strategies would you recommend for soybean cyst nematode? Besides maybe the ones, obviously, we've talked about so far.
Yeah, so I mean, as management, I think of it like a pyramid. You're building this up. You always have to have this foundation, which is a resistant variety. With the exception of extreme maturity groups, everything's going to have some resistance in it. It's very rare to get away from it. So always start on top of that. That corn-soybean rotation, just be thankful corn's not a host. I mean, that saves us so much.
You know something that we really like in Illinois?
What?
We like our seed treatments.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the next thing on the list.
Yeah.
So considering a seed treatment with that, and that's a rapidly changing market. We've had tools come on, and there's new tools coming out. as far as traditional chemistry goes, and then there's the whole group of bionematicides that are rushing into the market right now. So we say consider a seed treatment because it's such a diverse group. And we haven't even had a chance to look at all of it or a fraction of it as quick
with
as it's
the
changing.
biologicals, I mean, there's so many products out there.
So many products, and
So little time.
I hear you. I hear you. We love our seed treatments. I hear you, right? And
But I hear a butt coming on.
no, I will never use bot following. I hear what you're saying. However, some of these seed treatments are fungicide by nature, and they do an extremely good job of taking care of fungi that are soil-borne pathogens. For example, the pathogen that causes SDS, right?
Right.
Hopefully, more and more seed treatments will become available for the pathogen that causes red crown rot. So great fungicides that were also tested for soybean cyst nematode and showed a significant effect maybe under greenhouse conditions, controlled environmental conditions. Now, when we're saying consider a seed treatment, is mainly based on some of the results from field experiments or from on-farm trials,
So
right?
I've heard a lot of the research comes from the greenhouse with seed treatment sometimes in a controlled
Actually,
environment.
there are significant amount of seed treatment evaluations that are now available on peer-review articles, right? From either strip trials from on-farm research or small plots. So very reliable data, in my opinion, but that shows that inconsistency, right? It's not the silver bullet. And if we think about it, it's not a silver bullet even for the pathogens that they sometimes are meant to control. And it makes sense, right? They're protecting that early infection, but sometimes we're planting under conditions that, are very not conducive for that product to remain very active there, right?
Yep.
Rain,
We had lots of that
seeds
early,
that
yeah.
are not germinating or just sitting in the ground until soil starts getting
we
warmer.
plant in April. Yeah, that happens.
Exactly, and it's great. Early planting has their advantage. But what I want to say is that, solely relying on a seed treatment to manage your SCN population or to bump your yield, based on the data that we have been collecting and based on the data that we have been seeing from other groups, is not the way to go. This is truly an integrated management approach where resistance is your main weapon.
So one of the ISA-funded research projects that we have Dr. Boris Camilletti working on is the interaction of SCN and red crown rot. And so I know from reading in my past that SCN can cause an entryway for diseases like SDS and brown stem rot. So it seems like there's some fact sheets that we assume that SCN might have, association with red crown rot. So that's one thing we're just trying to maybe get a handle on here in Illinois, and I think it's very possible because it seems like where we're finding red crown rot in the state, it's a very kind of stressed environment, a compacted environment, or which is true of any soil-borne disease. But
And even in absence of a true interaction, if you have a stressed plant from soybean cyst nematode, it's not going to be as good at defending against other things too. So at worst, there's that sort of interaction there. But I think the opportunity for a greater interaction is much heavier. Yeah. So.
And I know in some of our counties, red crown rot's very well established, unfortunately, and some it's just showing up. Why is it in the middle of a field? Like what is it, or why is it worse in one patch? It makes you think maybe it could be. I've had farmers say SCN or pH.
Yeah.
And there's a strong association with pH. You said that a while ago with your profit checker.
Correct.
Right?
For
yes.
SCN.
Yes.
SCN, yeah.
And also could be for other diseases as well.
100%. And sometimes maybe
And that's high pH?
high pH for some reason, areas in the field with high pH, very alkaline soil, promotes more reproduction of SCN. So sometimes we will.
It's a good reminder. I don't know. It seems like there's several agronomists across the state that keep running into some of these areas. If you are so bold to go out with a soil probe,
Yeah.
and you test in the 110-degree weather,
Yes.
and you test the good spot and the bad spots, we're finding some pH issues here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I, when I talk to growers, I recommend being strategic when they're gonna pull soil samples. Look at your yield map. Why is it that area there is consistently yielding low? Is that SCN maybe? Why are you seeing so much SDS in that area always, consistently?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you truly have the pathogen that it caused SDS, but maybe that association with the need.
Unfortunately, we're finding all the above, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's one thing we've been pointing out in some podcasts that, it's not black and white. Sometimes, I don't know if you do. Do you help with the plant clinic at your state?
Yeah,
I know,
my
I know
office
you do.
is right in there, so I'm right next to it, and I love that because I get to see every sample that comes in.
Oh, but you don't actually have to do it.
But I don't have to do it. I'm gonna get
I smell you're stepping in.
yes.
I'm teasing you.
He gets to observe.
But do
I
you?
get to be there for the fun.
You run the
We
clinic?
run our samples, and even when the plant clinic at Ohio State receive nematode samples, they send it to my lab to do the nematode.
So a lot of times
test.
farmers get really confused whenever we start, we used to work together.
Yeah,
At
those were
Illinois.
the great days, I mean, so much knowledge that I gained.
But you list all the different pathogens that you find,
Yeah.
right? And so then the farmer gets it, and he's like, "What the heck? I have
know.
Fusarium species.
I
I
know.
have what does this?" Then they come to me and they're like, "What does this mean?"
You know what? You are 100% correct there, and I always think like the person who's gonna write that report has to have somewhat of an extension experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we will find so many organisms. If someone is there with a microscope, a stereoscope, media that they can pull everything that is within that plant, they will be able to do it. But what is it really
Yes.
driving that
What
yield
is
reduction?
What is the
Exactly.
main thing causing the problem?
And what should we target first? I mean, you cannot go with like a shotgun approach to try and like reduce every single organism that you detected in that field. We need to identify what is driving that yield reduction and start there. And if you have soybean cyst nematode, and if you do have it at high levels, we know that that will cause significant yield reduction. Any investment in management you do, you will see a return. Yeah.
So we're heading into fall. You talked about testing earlier. Combine rolls through. They look at yield maps. They think, it's still lower yields here. So any tips taking those samples? I know either farmer does it or their advisor does it. Anything you want to mention there as a recommendation?
Just take advantage of those those checkoff funded programs that are going to pay for that free testing. I mean, it's a significant value to know what's going on there, especially if you're rolling through the field and you have areas that have unexplained yield loss. Oftentimes these are interactions, but figuring out if that soybean cyst nematode there is a huge first step. It's also the perfect time of year to test. Just being at the end of that season, maybe you're waiting on the grain cart, you can hop out and grab a sample. It'll tell you a lot about what's going on in that area, or at least give you a starting point.
I keep reminding growers, ask yourself the question, do I know if I have soybean cyst nematode?
Well, what if, there was just a farmer that I work with here near Champaign,
Okay.
and he goes, well, everybody has it, so why should I test for it?
Yeah, exactly, and that's my point. Maybe the answer is no, I don't have it, or, well, that answer doesn't really, respond to the question, do you know if you have it? So let's say that you talk to a grower and say, you cannot say everybody has it. Do you have it? Do you know if you have it? And if the answer is no, you're done with harvest, which is very stressful, right? But you're done with it. The field is clear to walk through. You can take a soil sample. That will tell you if you have it or not. You can answer a question that you didn't know the answer before. The next one is how much you have. What's your number? because that will dictate what you're going to do next. You took a composite sample, levels are high, chances are that you have several hotspots in your field. What if only half of the field has high levels of soybean cyst nematode and not the other half? Well, you can still do soybean on the other half, but maybe a non-host on that half, right? So you can start developing management approach that will reduce populations eventually. And if the answer is I have it at very low levels, keep low levels low. That's the best approach. You will not get rid of it. So let's keep it low.
The other thing is target your management. A lot of these, seed treatments can be a significant investment. Don't put it on 1,000 acres if you don't need to put it out there. Figure out where you've got this problem and then target that management specifically to that.
That's pretty important, especially in these times, low commodity prices and high inputs.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Great conversation, that's for sure, here with the SCN Coalition.
We're so happy you stopped
Yeah,
by.
this was a great treat to have.
So, talking here with Steph just takes me back to the
He's
past.
got stories.
Yeah,
He's got stories.
I got nostalgia, I mean.
Oh, no. She was afraid you were going to tell stories on me.
No, that would be
I
another
wasn't
podcast.
afraid. I was ready.
That I need 2 hours and a half.
So to be continued,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, thank you both for coming on the Field Advisor podcast. You provide some great information about SCN heading into fall. I will plug the SCN Coalition. Give us the website one more time.
The SCNcoalition.com, extremely simple, easy, with a lot of resources. And once you're there, you can find the SCN Profit Checker. That tool is amazing. It just takes us away of all these different tables that you, your university, have created. Where I call it high, but you call it moderate, and he calls it low. No, this is data-driven tool that will give us how much we're losing to soybean cyst nematode under those field conditions. So take a look at that. Yeah.
Then I'll also plug for Illinois farmers. If you go to fieldadvisor.org and under the Participate tab, it says SCN testing. You can learn more how to take advantage of that program. And if you're outside of Illinois, check in with your checkoff.
We'll probably run this around time when people are actually pulling SCN samples. So we've had some feedback on our program, and sometimes the lab, the plant clinic, can get a little bit backed up a little bit. So we're working towards making that a better process this year. So I just wanted to make farmers aware of that we have been working to maybe speed up the results a little bit, but we've kind of had issues with that here in Illinois.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And one final comment just to pay attention, because the SCN Coalition will be expanding to looking into other plant parasitic nematodes that affect soybean. So here in the Midwest, the soybean cyst nematode is very common, very prevalent, causes a lot of damage. But our farmers in the southern part of the United States struggle with root knot nematode, reniform nematode. And across the U.S., we have lesion nematode, right?
We also, I think not many people know, but we do have a few counties that we do have problems with root knot nematode in Illinois.
Yes.
And so we are struggling to get some varieties with resistance for root knot in those counties.
Yep. Exactly.
But it is more of a regional thing. We hope it stays that way, but we do, care about those farmers in those counties.
100%.
And then what about lesion?
I mean, lesion nematode is completely a different beast, right? And such a hard one to work with because it has a very wide host range. It really can go inside the root, move outside, go to another plant. I mean, it's just another different organisms.
So we are working with some ISA-funded research. This is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
That we're going to dabble a little bit looking at to see if we're having issues with lesion in soybeans.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. I mean, just getting out of United States for a bit, Brazil is a huge soybean producer, and lesion nematode is the number one, along with soybean cyst nematode
I
and
did
root
not know
knot.
that.
Yeah, terrible. So Pratylencos brachyurio specifically is a species that causes significant yield reduction there. But coming back, we with the SCN Coalition, and with support from USB, United Soybean Board, we are developing these 4 management guides. We are revising the SCN management guide, has been outdated for 10 years, so we're going to bring the new and novel management strategies that we are learning and communicating. So that will be updated, and then we'll create these other 3 management guides: the root knot nematode, the reniform, and the lesion management guides.
Okay.
So that will be available hopefully by the end of this year, the next year.
On the Coalition website.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we covered a lot today. Thank you both for stopping by, taking time out of your schedule. I know you said you're headed back, so you're probably eager to get on out of here, but we really appreciate it. I think this was a very beneficial conversation. I learned many things.
Thank
from
you.
it.
Yeah, we
So thank
appreciate
you.
that you having us here and the cold beverage here that was offered to us.
For the record, if you're listening, he has water in his hands, not a cold
He
beer.
wishes it was a different beverage.
I mean, it's
so-
4:30, you know, and
And he keeps looking at me with those beady little eyes.
Well, thank you both. I think I'd say this a lot, but to be continued. I think there's more to talk about on this, and we'll keep in touch. How about that?
more than happy. Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having us.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Field Advisor Podcast. Unbiased, independent agronomy information to keep your farm moving forward. I'm Kelsey Litchfield, your voice from the field. This podcast is funded by the Illinois Soybean Association Checkoff Program. Stay connected with Field Advisor on social media. Follow, like, and share to keep the conversation going. And don't forget to subscribe to the Field Advisor Podcast on your favorite podcast platform.